Jordan Peele's 2017 debut film Get Out is much more than a horror movie. It is a compelling critique of contemporary racial dynamics through the lens of horror verité. This concept refers to the blending of documentary-style realism with traditional horror, amplifying the visceral experience of fear by grounding the story in recognizable social truths. The Get Out exemplifies this fusion, effectively exposing the lurking specter of racial violence that pervades American life. The film's protagonist, Chris Washington, embarks on what he initially believes to be a benign trip to his girlfriend's family. However, it quickly morphs into a harrowing experience that unveils the insidious nature of liberal racism. Peele deftly utilizes the setting, an ostensibly peaceful suburban environment, to illustrate how danger often hides behind civility. The Armitage family, who appear to be open-minded and progressive, embody the real horror that arises from a superficial sympathy that disguises a more sinister intention. They are not merely villains, but representatives of a society that claims to have evolved beyond overt racism while perpetuating systemic inequalities. Hypnosis and photography. Central to the film's narrative is the juxtaposition between hypnosis and photography. The infamous sunken place, where Chris is mentally trapped during his hypnotherapy session, symbolizes the silencing of black voices in a society that often renders them invisible. This theme bears striking resemblance to the way photography operates as well. Throughout the film, the use of photography serves as multiple purposes: documenting, capturing, and crucially, distorting reality. Chris's personal snapshot serves as a haunting reminder of his identity in stark contrast to the Armitage family's cultivation of his likeness for their own exploitative ends. Peele cleverly intertwines these elements, suggesting that the lens can both liberate and confine, much like the experience of being black in a racially stratified society. The practice of hypnosis, expertly wielded by Missy Armitage, represents a psychological form of imprisonment and domination. Through the sunken place, hypnosis functions as a complete psychic hijacking, rendering the victim's consciousness inert and passive while their physical body is used and controlled by an outside force. This state is a perfect metaphor for the dehumanization inherent in the film's premise, the literal theft and occupation of the black body. It paralyzes the victim's will and voice, forcing them into a spectator role of their own life being lived by another. In parallel, photography and the visual arts, particularly Chris Washington's own talent as a photographer, stand for a different yet related form of objectification. The Armitage family's meticulous selection of black individuals is akin to curatorial photography, reducing complex human beings to desirable aesthetic and physical attributes. The act of photographing or visually documenting a subject, in this context, mirrors the way the family frames and commodifies the black body. Chris's work, which captures moments of reality and affective truth, contrasts sharply with the Armitage's clinical, almost scientific, which aims only at capturing the vessel for their own sinister needs. The visual medium, when manipulated, becomes a tool for categorization and control, turning subjects into silent, consumable objects, much like the process of auctioning or displaying prized possessions. Therefore, the film uses this dual mechanism, the mental control through the hypnosis and the visual objectification through an artistic and selective look, to create a profound and disturbing narrative about the historical contemporary anxieties surrounding the black experience in America, where identity can be seized and the body can be meticulously appraised and exploited. Historical materialism. The film is a profound work of contemporary cinema that operates compellingly within the sophisticated framework of historical materialism. This critical approach, rooted in Marxist theory, provides a powerful lens through which to analyze the movie's thematic core, drawing on a deep, nuanced understanding of the inextricable intersection of race and class in the formation of and maintenance of contemporary societal norms. The film critiques not only the personal impact of racism, but also situates racial violence within the larger context of capitalist exploitation. The Armitage's horrifying practice of hypnotically entrapping black individuals and using their bodies as vessels for white consciousness distills the overarching theme of cultural appropriation and commodification inherent in American society. The film invites viewers to question the historical ownership of black bodies, a crucial concern in the discourse surrounding race in America. The narrative masterfully dissects how material conditions, specifically wealth, land ownership, and economic power, are utilized by the affluent, predominantly white community to perpetuate a modern-day form of racial exploitation and subjugation. The Armitage family's twisted pursuit of black bodies or for immortality is not merely a horror trope, it is a chilling metaphor for the historical and systemic commodification of black existence, labor, and culture. The film argues that systemic racism is not a mere failure of personal ethics but a structural necessity tied to the economic base, where control over the means of existence, in this case healthy, desirable bodies, becomes the ultimate expression of power. By positioning the wealthy elite as literally consuming the vitality of marginalized groups, Get Out unveils a critique of capitalist racial hierarchy, illustrating how the historical trauma of slavery and exploitation continues to manifest in new, insidious material forms. Horror Verité. Peele's masterful use of everyday horror elevates the film beyond traditional genre expectations. The film harnesses the aesthetic of horror verite, pulling audience members into a shared reality where the familiar becomes terrifying. It is a reflection on a society still wrestling within the repercussions of its historical misunderstandings and deep-seated prejudices. The terror within Get Out is not found in ghosts or monsters, but in the deeply ingrained psychological and structural violence that black individuals see in their interactions with a seemingly tolerant world. Firmly establishing it as a landmark piece of socially conscious horror, the film harnesses the aesthetic of horror verite, pulling audience members into a shared reality where the familiar becomes terrifying. By setting its central conflict in the seemingly benign environment of a wealthy liberal suburban family gathering, Peele exposes the insidious nature of systemic racism and the microaggressions that often precede outright terror. This technique doesn't rely on supernatural monsters or haunted houses, but rather on the chilling transformation of everyday social rituals like a garden party or a family dinner into sites of profound psychological dread. The viewer is positioned alongside Chris, experiencing the growing, suffocating unease as his initial awkwardness morphs into a terrifying realization that he's trapped, targeted, and being systematically dehumanized. The film's power lies in its ability to make the audience question the humans and spaces they encounter daily, suggesting that the most terrifying threats often wear a friendly, unassuming mask. To conclude, Jordan Peele's Get Out serves as an intricate approach to race relations in America. Through the harmonization of horror verite, the interplay of hypnosis and photography, and a robust dealing with historical materialism, the film not only terrifies, but also elucidates the complexities of racial terror. It is an indelible work that prompts both critical reflection and visceral response, making it a milestone in contemporary horror cinema.